All right. So again, welcome to Zero to Lab Accelerated. My name is Arpit Pandit, and I will be an instructor for this whole course for CCI. So in today's session, I'm going to explain you the structure of the exam and also the structure of this course. Exactly what can you expect from this course week by week, and how exactly it is going to prepare you for the certification exam. And what topics are we going to cover? What tools are we going to use? And exactly what will be the best approach to go about all the technologies that we are going to learn. Exactly which technologies are we going to learn as well. Some of the basic idea I'll give you that as well, and some examples of what kind of single protocol labs and multi protocol labs we are going to do in this class. So without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, this course is actually to prepare you for the lab exam of the CCIE Enterprise Infrastructure, right? The CCIE, earlier it used to be called CCIE Routing and Switching. So the exam itself, you'll see, is divided into two parts. One is the qual exam or qualification, which is basically the CCNP NCORE exam, which also works as a core exam for CCNP certification. So earlier, what used to happen, you had to pass your CCNP, or if you want to, like there were three separate certifications: route, switch, T-shoot, and then you had to take another written exam, CCI qualification exam, to be able to book the lab. But now things are better because first of all, when you're preparing for your CCNP, you need to pass two exams. One is the core exam, which is called NCORE, and the other one is one of the concentration exams like NRC, routing and services, or SD-WAN deep dive, or wireless infrastructure. So you can take one of the concentration exam, and these two exams get you the CCNP certification. But while you are preparing for your CCNP, and when you pass the NCORE exam, you also become eligible to book the CCIE Lab, because the NCORE exam also plays as the qualification exam for CCI. So you don't need to pay extra and prepare extra for another written exam like a CCI qual that used to be there. So once you pass the NCORE exam, you are on your track for CCNP certification. That is something you can decide. Do you want to get the CCNP certification by taking one of the concentration exam as well? And the
I,
topics
al-
that, yeah, go
I
ahead.
excuse me. I already have it.
Oh,
Uh,
perfect. That's great.
yeah,
So
but
you already have NCORE, yeah.
no. You said, am I here in Korea?
No, no. So you already have the NCORE exam?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, this is, I was just saying that this is, if somebody hasn't done it yet, this is what you would need first to be able to book the CCI lab exam. But since you already did this, so that's perfect. And then of course,
Okay.
once you have this, then you can actually go for booking the lab exam. And this course is actually designed to prepare you for the CCI lab exam, the practical exam that we have, which is called the CCI Enterprise Infrastructure version 1.1. Now, 1.1 is the latest version, and if there is any change in future, we are going to accommodate those changes as well into this course. So currently, what we have is V1.1. So let's actually dig deeper into the lab exam itself. What exactly is there into CCI lab exam, which is
Hey, isn't there a written
the
section to the CCIE?
CCI. Yeah, that's right. CCI Enterprise Infrastructure.
I said, isn't there a written section as well to the
Yes, yes.
CCIE?
So yes, yes, there is one, but it's like a multiple choice section that I'm going to explain now. So you'll see that in the lab exam, you have total 8 hours, right? It's a hands-on based exam, but this is also divided into two different parts. So first part is the design part, and that's the one that you are mentioning, that is the written part. So this is the written part, where the first 3 hours you will have actually MCQs, multiple choice questions, drag and drop kind of questions, table matching, but no configuration. What it means is that you will not have to click on the devices and configure them for fixing the issue. Instead, you just need to have the strong fundamental knowledge of the technologies, so that you can actually see some output of the show commands, or some packet output, or the content of the packet they might show you, or they might show you an email exchange between an IT manager and the network administrator, and you have to decide based on those information what will be the correct answer out of the multiple choice questions, or select some of the multiple options from the MC. So this exam, or this part of the exam, design part, actually is prepared using the strong fundamental knowledge. So we will make sure that you have the etiquette understanding of all the information that we need to pass this part. Because you will see that, for example, if you are thinking about DMVPN or MPLS or QoS or BGP, if you know exactly the logic behind them, what exactly is these technologies and how to configure them, and what are the steps to configure, and why do we need those? So you know exactly what will be missing into a configuration if they are showing you the output of that. So the fundamental knowledge directly actually affect the design part. And this is the written part that we were discussing about earlier. The first 3 hours where you have a topology and you need to just observe the configuration or communication or the outputs, and based on that you will have to answer the question. So you don't need to configure anything in this part. The configuration actually comes into the second part of the exam, which is the deploy, operate, and optimize part. And in this part, you get 5 hours, and there will be a separate topology. So it will be a new, different topology, and you will be able to click on the devices, open the console, and you will be able to configure the devices. Now, devices will be pre-configured on some level. It's not completely blank devices, or it's not just IP addressing. For example, in the headquarter, if they are showing you that OSPF is being used, then OSPF is already configured. You just need to fix it or add some information to make it complete here and there. So it's not that you need to configure everything. That's why 5 hours will be enough if you know the stuff that we need to know for this part. So speaking of the topics that they are going to cover into this part, so you will see that this TO part, deploy, operate, and optimize, can be divided into three major sections. The core technologies of routing and switching, and then the new addition that they did into the new version, software-defined networking, and programmability. So what happens is that in the exam, people think that okay, SDN and programmability are the new parts, so these parts will take more time out of
Hey,
5 hours.
excuse me, one quick question. How long is
Sure.
our training today? I don't mean to interrupt, but how long is the training?
Of every week, you mean?
How long
Or
is this training? Like how long will what time is this over? Yeah.
so this will be 6 months.
No,
6 months
no.
we
I
will.
mean what time? Like how long are we gonna
Oh,
uh
today, you mean?
yes. Yes.
Oh, today it will be a short section. It will be, I would say, maybe 30, 40 minutes of introduction. Uh, and then, and from next week onward, it will be 2 hours every week.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So you will see that actually the routing and switching section is the biggest or the longest section in the exam, because there are so many technologies which are there, the core technologies which used to be part of the main CCI exam before. Now it is part of the first section, you can say routing and switching, or the core technology section. That's where you will have switching, all the layer 2 technologies like VLANs, trunking, ether channel, spanning tree protocol, all these will be into the switching part. Then the routing section will be quite big because we will have interior gateway protocols, EIGRP, OSPF, and then we will have BGP, IP version 6, which will be basically over all the IGPs. We have to configure IP version 6 as well. Multicasting, quality of service, and all the VPN technologies are also part of it. Any GRE tunnels, IPsec tunnels, MPLS, L3 VPN, or DMVPN, dynamic multi-point VPN, those things will also be part of the core technology part of the routing switching. And any IP services like NET, DHCP, DNS, SNMP, NetFlow, all these things are part of the first section of the exam. So this becomes quite big. And then comes the software-defined networking. So you will see that in SDN, although it's a newer topic and it feels like it might take more time, but once you understand the logic and how to configure it, you will see it is mostly GUI. And once you know where to click, where to go in the GUI and know the logic behind that, it becomes easier to implement the software-defined networking, or faster compared to how much time you will take into the core technology, which is the routing and switching part. And programmability is the shortest part in the exam, where you actually have the automation and programmability. So this is where we will learn how we can use some of the in-house tools in Cisco routers like EM, embedded event management, and how do we use Python as a programming language to configure things or do some API calls to the router. And what are the different basic building blocks of these kind of connections to the router? For example, what are these data structures? For example, XML, JSON, YAML, that we use to send any information to the router. Also, what kind of language do we use with the router. So we cannot just send router instructions in simple English, right? We need to use a particular structure, language which is understood by both parties, by the sending device and also the router. So we use the Yang data models for that. And Yang data models are basically the way that we structurize our questions that we send to the device, whether it is to change something or to retrieve some information. So that is something we send using Yang data models. And then the transportation protocol that we will use to send these instructions will be netconf or resconf. So how exactly do they work, and what is the difference between netconf and resconf, pros and cons, and what kind of client-side software do we use for netconf, what kind of client-side software we can use for resconf. For example, Postman is a GUI software we can use to send API calls. So all these things we are also going to learn into programmability. SDN or software defined networking also, we will divide into two parts. So you will see that when I start teaching all these topics, I always break any topic into three questions: what, why, and how, right? So we have to understand what is the technology we are talking about or discussing today. Why is it important? Like what problem is it exactly solving? And then we will come to the big question: how to configure it. And the how becomes easier if the why part is clear. For example, software defined networking. Basically, what is software-defined networking? So we see that in every single routing or switching device, we have three different planes, right? Management plane, control plane, and data plane. So whenever the packets arrive to the device, it is the data plane which actually forwards it to the next device, right? It's moving through data plane. But when the packet arrives, what exactly to do with the packet? Should I send it to the next hop one or next hop two or next hop three? Do I prioritize it or not? Do I filter it out? Do I just drop it? Or do I send it to the control plane for more processing? All these decisions are not taken by data plane. These are taken by control plane. Control plane is where you actually define the policy, like routing protocols, switching protocols, any kind of ACLs, quality of service. All these things you define all the rules and policies on the control plane. But how do you access the control plane to configure these policies? So that's where comes the management plane, right? Traditionally, we used to have telnet or secure shell or HTTP to connect over GUI to the router or switch, and then we can get the access to the router terminal, and then we can start configuring it, creating these policies on the control plane. So management plane used to be these protocols to have remote access, right? Basically to the devices,
Okay,
but
did you say metadata?
not metadata, but SD, any kind
I
of
could
management
I
access, right?
I couldn't understand what you said. Control plane, data plane, and what was the other one?
Oh, okay, so the management plane to manage the
Management.
device,
Oh,
right?
okay, management. Okay.
So management plane basically means the plane which you use to connect to the device to access the control plane, so that you will be able to configure it and create policies, create rules that will affect the data movement or the packet movement through the device, right? So in the traditional devices, what used to happen is that every single device has individual set of planes. So every router has its own control plane, its own management plane, its own data plane, right? So what SDN does, it actually decouples the data plane from the other two planes. So now you take out the control plane and you take out the management plane from the device, and you place them into a centralized device which we call a controller. And the controller actually define and creates all the policies and push them to all the edge devices. So on every single router and switch, you don't need to individually log in and create these control plane policies. You don't need to do that anymore. You can do it from a central location, from a controller. So that's the logic of SDN, means taking the management plane and the control plane out of the device, all the devices, and placing them into a central location or a central device, which is called the controller. So you can apply this logic to LAN side devices like your campus network, and you can also apply this logic to the WAN side devices, basically on any WAN edge devices. So depending on where you are applying the SDN logic, you will be using either SDA, software defined access from Cisco's solution, which is for the LAN side, or SD-WAN, which is the WAN side solution for the same logic to take the control plane and management plane out of the device and putting it into a controller. For example, if you are implementing it for your switches, for your wireless LAN controllers or wireless access points, basically your campus side devices, then that solution is called SDA, software defined access. And the controller for that is called the DNAC, Cisco DNS Center. That's the controller where you will have the management plane and the control plane at a central location for all the devices. And you can create the policies and access rules right from the central location. On the other hand, if you're talking about the SD-WAN, the controllers, there are three different controllers we use. So, of course, right now I'm not teaching you SDN, I'm just giving you an example. So, we will have in-depth discussion with the examples when it comes to the software-defined networking part. But just to give you a basic idea, there is vBond to actually have the licensing, certification, and authentication of the devices. We manage as a central management plane, so single pane of glass viewing and managing of all the devices. And the control plane is called vSmart. So these are the different controllers we use in SD-WAN. So when it comes to the SDN part, I will explain you how to use these devices, how exactly do we configure them, and how do we control the whole infrastructure or the fabric, as they call it, from a central location. In programmability also, if you don't have any idea about how Python works, or if you are new to Python, that's completely fine, because we are going to understand the Python also from scratch. And then we'll see how we can actually utilize Python programming language to remotely program our devices or change configuration on our routers or switches from a central location. So that will be the part of the automation and programmability. So as I mentioned, the devices will be slightly pre-configured. Some of the information will already be. So you don't need to configure them from scratch, and you will only need to configure the devices as per instructions. So there will be some instructions like OSPF is already configured, but router between router 2 and router 3 neighborship is not coming up. So you need to make sure that you troubleshoot the issue and fix the OSPF issue that you have that's stopping them to become neighbor. Now you see that these kind of questions, any troubleshooting questions, they directly depend on the underlying core knowledge or the concept of the technology. For example, if you know exactly what goes into an OSPF hello message, then you will be able to see what things to check, because there are some certain parameters which must match between two routers and some parameters which must be unique. For example, between two OSPF routers, the network must be same. Authentication, if password is configured, that must match. Area ID and the area type should also be same. But if you think about router ID must be unique. It cannot be same between two routers. Otherwise, the neighborship doesn't come up, right? Timers must be same. MTU also plays a big role in OSPF. So these are the parameters that you need to quickly check if they are same or different between two routers. Any interface should not be configured as the passive interface, because passive interfaces do not send or receive hello messages. So there is no possibility of neighborship over passive interfaces. So just to give you an example, we will actually go in depth like this about every single technology to make sure we know what to check when we are troubleshooting as well. I always say this to my students, that troubleshooting directly depends on the core knowledge of the technology and then applying the logic in a systematic structured way to check exactly if the things are working or not. So in the OSI model, you start from layer 3. If the reachability is there, if yes, then you move to layer 4 and layer 5 and see if there are any application issue. But if the reachability itself is not there, then you start troubleshooting from routing, or you go below layer 2, layer 1, and see if there is any switching or Ethernet or point-to-point link protocol issues in the OSI model. So troubleshooting, I'll always go in this way, right? So in the exam, you will get total 8 hours. So at the end of this course, you will see that you will be ready with the information that you need to pass the exam, but you will have to do more practice. Means the multi-protocol labs that we will do in this class, I'll make sure that you understand every single part of it. You understand every step, and the clarity is there, exactly how and why we are doing things. But then you will have to do these labs again for a few more times so that you can actually gain the pace. Because in exam, you have to do things faster. You get only 5 hours to configure everything in the deploy, operate, and optimize. Mostly in the design part, you will not actually have any issue with the time. Mostly people actually are done within an hour in design part. But in the deploy, operate, and optimize part, generally the time is not enough if you are going very slow. And we also have to make sure that we have at least 30 minutes in the end to check everything again, because so much configuration. So we don't want to make any typos. We want to make sure that by mistake we did not configure something wrong. So that's very crucial to have that extra 30 minutes to check everything in the exam before we finally save it and close the exam. So that's why the accuracy is the first part. We need to understand how things are configured, and then comes the pace or the speed. So once your accuracy part is okay, once you understand the lab in and out, then you will do the lab again and again, not to cram anything or not to learn anything by heart, but to just have that habit of doing things faster, slightly faster than normal, and then you can actually have some time saved in the exam to check these things again, right? So that's the CCI course, the lab exam structure. But how exactly is this course going to help you to achieve this? So let's discuss the course structure. So when Christian and I were planning to create this program, we actually noticed that there are so many bootcamp style courses out there in outside. So many organizations are providing bootcamp courses where you learn all the CCI topics in 5 days bootcamp or 7 days bootcamp. So we thought that's actually very extreme because you learn so many topics starting from switching, routing, VPN technologies, IP services, SDN, programmability. So many things they teach you in 5 or 7 days. Classes are 10 to 12 hours every day. And you get very little time to reflect on things to see exactly did you understand it? Do you have enough time to practice? So we saw that was a big hurdle for anyone who understand technologies but want to have proper, deeper understanding and some time to practice as well. So that's why we created this program where we actually have one session per week, and these sessions are going to be 2 hours per session. Although I always tell my students that this is not a time driven class, it's a topic driven class. So sometimes we might go more than 2 hours depending on the topic of that week. Sometimes it might take less than 2 hours depending on what topic we are covering. But what is
Oh,
important is to start something and complete it according to that particular logic. Yeah, you have a
yes.
question, Bobby?
I also was requesting, if you had Wednesday classes. Uh,
Yes, I think Christian told me about that. So we do have a Wednesday slot free. So what we might do is we can move this class to the other one. But today I was hoping the other two students also to join so that we can have a discussion. And if everyone is on board, we can definitely
but
do
in
that.
but in the other class, is it starting at the CCIE section, or is it going back to CCNP or CCNA? Is it that type of thing in the other class, or what is it?
So the one that we are discussing about on the Wednesday evening, that class currently we don't have we haven't started that class yet. So if this class moves there, if other people are also okay, other students are also on board, then we can start right from the CCI level like we are doing right now, the advanced CCI level.
Okay.
If it's a different class, then I'll or Christian will let you know, Christian or I will let you know that it is starting from CCNP level or CCI level. That is something we can do for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem. So the reason we created this course in this way is because we want to also give you some time to actually do the practice on your own. So, for example, if we are covering today DMVPN, dynamic multi-point VPN, for example, and I'm telling you, okay, this is how dynamic multi-point VPN works. There are phase one, phase two, phase three, and currently we are only using phase three, where MGRE is used everywhere. And I tell you the detail of the logic of DMVPN, and then I show you an example, a configuration in right into the Zoom class, and then you get the whole week where I'll send you the lab, the solution file, and you have the EVNG to practice it on your own. So you get plenty of time to practice it again, solidifying your strength, understanding, and also having questions. Because when you do it on your own, when you're watching the recording again and seeing the session and then trying to do it on your own, you actually will have some questions, which is not possible if you cram everything into 5 or 7 days boot camps. So that's why we created this week by week, and in these 2 hours that we are going to meet every week, we will start with the topic discussion. So let's say if today's topic is EIGRP, and again, if we are talking about something important like EIGRP, OSPF, or BGP, bigger topics, so they may take multiple sessions as well. Like BGP, we are not going to finish in 2 hours. We are going to take multiple sessions also to dig deeper and understand it completely that you need for the CCI level. So we'll start the advanced discussion of the technology, and I'll explain you some certain topics. For example, let's say today's EIGRP advanced topics, so we will understand how summarization work, route filtering work. Just to give you an example, how do we exactly use the unequal cost load balancing, And when I'm explaining you these things, I'll give you some examples also. And that's why you will see that after the topic discussion, in the second part of the lab, we are going to do the live configuration with troubleshoot. So we will actually have a lab, and I'll explain and configure the lab right here into the Zoom session. So you will understand exactly how it is configured. And this is like the applied knowledge of whatever we learn into that session. Hey, hi, Sayed. Welcome to the class.
Hello. Good
Hi.
morning.
So I will.
Morning to you, right?
Hi. Welcome.
Yeah.
So we are actually discussing about the course structure for this course. I was just mentioning that it's a one session per week, and we will have 2 hours per session courses, the sessions. And what I was mentioning is that every week we are going to start a particular topic, and we'll go in depth in the theory, and then we will back it up with the lab configuration. So in the live Zoom session, you don't need to do the live configuration with me, because you need to just concentrate on exactly how it is done. So after the class is finished, I will send you the lab PDF along with the solution file, and then you can do it throughout the week, right? So you in the class itself or Zoom session itself, you can just pay attention, make notes, and I will be explaining you the topic, and I'll be doing the lab as well. And of course, when it comes to doing the configuration of the lab, I'm not going to be quiet and just configuring things. I'll be explaining every single point, that what is the instruction into the lab, into the question, and why are we configuring it the way that we are configuring, and what is the result of that. So we will be discussing everything during the configuration section as well. So just to give you an example, for example, when we discuss about OSPF, we'll be using one topology, something like this, where we will have multiple areas, as you can see, and area 0 here is not connected directly to area 3, and we know in OSPF everything has to be connected to area 0. So basically area number 3 on the right hand side is discontinuous. It is not connected to the rest of the network. It will not get any routes from other areas, and other areas will not get any routes from the area 3. So we will also see the concept of virtual link. So every week we are going to actually have different topological diagrams like this, and we will see exactly how do we configure that week's technology, and or that week's topic. And of course, I'll send you also the PDF file that we'll use to configure these things. For example, for OSPF, we have this single protocol lab. So these are called single protocol lab because we are concentrating only on one protocol. So when we configure OSPF, we are not going to configure EIGRP or DMVPN or MPLS also. We'll concentrate on how exactly OSPF is configured. And for bigger topics like OSPF, you can see this is lab number 2. That means we will have multiple sessions where we'll dig deeper into all the important aspect of OSPF protocol, right? The link is set routing protocol. So these instructions that you see, configure OSPF according to diagram, or make sure area 3 routes are reachable, or make sure that some routes are not utilized into some other area. These are the same, I would say, structure as you would see in the exam. Although this is a single protocol lab, and later we will do multi-protocol labs as well, where we will mix all the technologies into the same topology. But when every week you go through these kind of labs, which are in the instruction style of the Cisco, then you become more and more familiar with how Cisco asks questions in the exam, and how to interpret those questions, and how to solve those questions. So along with this file, I will also send you every week the solution file. So for the same OSPF lab, you will see that router by router, there is a solution configuration as well. And the reason I send you the solution file as well is because you are not supposed to test yourself when you are doing it during the week. So of course, in the class, I'll explain you the technology. I will do the lab, and then I will send you the lab to do during the week. So you are not supposed to remember everything from the class and do it without looking at the solution. It's not a test. So you have to change up. You have to have a different point of view, a paradigm shift. When you are in the class, naturally you are in the learning mode because you are listening, you're understanding, you're seeing the configuration. But when you do it on your own during the week, that time also I want you to have the learning mode, because you are still learning and still making sure that you are comfortable with the technologies. So when you do it on your own, if you get stuck somewhere, feel free to look at the solution file. If the solution file is not clear, feel free to watch the recording of the session again. And if that is not clear or something is still not clear, feel free to contact me for any kind of support and questions. And I'll show you all the different ways you can actually contact as well. So to make sure that you understand it properly before moving on to the next topic. So it's not that you need to remember everything right after the session. What is important is to be able to do the practice on your own and complete the lab even after looking at the solution. Because if you get stuck somewhere and you check the solution file, your brain will remember, okay, I got stuck here and now I know what is the solution. So now I know how to do it. So next time I will be able to do it without looking. So that's the objective we also have, these topic labs along with the solution file that I'll send you by email after every session. So if today I have a BGP session and I'm teaching you the BGP lab, after the class, I'll send you the same BGP lab along with the solution file to your email. And you can use the EVNG to practice it, because the same topologies that I will use in the live session, the same topologies are available to you already in EVNG to practice. And I'll show you how exactly you can actually start using EVNG as well. And also, as I was mentioning, for doubt clearing, you have different methods. Of course, you can refer to the solution file that I'll send you. You can ask the questions on the Facebook group or below the video. So basically, we have a Facebook group created for students where you can join. I think in the first welcome email from Christian, you have a link to the Facebook group. If not, you can let me know. I'll send you the link to the Facebook group. You can ask questions there, because there you can actually take screenshots of the configurations. Also, you can paste there. You can ask very detailed questions there. And there are two benefits of that. One is that if somebody else is asking questions, you can also see the comments, the solution, and maybe that will answer your question as well. And maybe if you ask question and I'm answering there, other people will also benefit. Or maybe some people are already done that, so they will also chip in and answer the question. So it's a good community of information exchange that you should use. In case if you don't have Facebook, or sometimes you don't have access to Facebook, and you're watching the recordings of these sessions later, you can always write down your question in the comment section below the recording video, because every recording video has a comment section also on the website. And there you'll be able to ask questions. That also comes directly to me, and I will be answering you there. Of course, you can also send me an email, but that's the least preferred method, because I mostly we use email to send labs and solution files and fixing any basically any logistic issues, like if you have any issue with the EVNG setup or anything. But you can also use this as the last resort if other options are not available to you. Lastly, you can also ask questions in the live sessions. At the end of every session, we will have a quick Q&A session. But since this will be within the class, and since we only have 2 hours, so this part is not for detailed questions or showing the configuration. If you have quick doubts here and there, you can ask here. But the detailed questions, it's better to ask on the Facebook group, or sending an email will be a better idea for that part. And of course, the one of the biggest benefit of using this course or this class is that you have lifetime access to the class recordings. Now, the class recording might not be from our class. It might be from one of the previous classes, because we use the same topic and same structure for every CCIE class. So if I'm teaching OSPF today, lab number 2, you can go to the OSPF lab number 2 recording. It might be from the previous class, but the content and the lab and the solution, everything will be same. So you might see a previous class recording, but you will have access to those recordings for lifetime. So in future, if Cisco decides to add few things to CCIE or remove few things from CCIE, we are going to update our recordings accordingly as well. So you will also get the latest information for the lifetime. So you don't need to purchase anything else on the CCIE after this. That's the motto we have, to make sure that we get you to your certification, and to make sure that you have all the support and the tools that you need to get there, right? So talking about the course structure, as I was mentioning, that the major sections we are going to cover is the same that we have in the CCIE blueprint. So we will start with the fundamental topics, which is layer 2, layer 3, and VPN technologies like MPLS, GRE tunnels, IPsec tunnels, DMVPN. All this will be there. Multicast is also an important part. The PIM protocol independent multicast configuration, IGMP configuration, Internet Group Management Protocol, And then various IP services like NET, DHCP, DNS, IPSLA, policy-based routing, SNMP, NetFlow, all these things will go here. Security settings like access control list on IP version 4, IP version 6, and also on layer 2 security features like DHCP snooping, ARP, dynamic ARP inspection, IP source guard, all these things, and the monitoring tools, as I mentioned, basically NetFlow and SNMP. And what are the tools we can use in SD-WAN or SDN side? We are going to cover those as well. Now, the routing part here, the second thing that you see after switching, that is the biggest part, because in routing you have, first of all, EIGRP, then OSPF, then you have BGP. Then we have the same routing protocols again in IP version 6. So we'll see IP version 6 variations like EIGRP name mode or OSPF version 3 configuration. In BGP, how exactly do we use different address families? So what exactly address family means and how does it allow you to configure IP version 4 and IP version 6 simultaneously between two routers? So all those things will be part of the routing infrastructure. Also, any thing that affects the routing, like quality of service, that will also be a big part of the exam. And we'll see how exactly QoS is implemented. We'll see how layer 2 and layer 3 QoS work, mainly layer 3 QoS, how DHCP markings work, what is queuing, what is shaping, what is policing, and how does the congestion avoidance work using the WRAD feature, weighted anomaly detection. So all these things will be part of the core or fundamental topics. And then, of course, we will have a software-defined networking part where we will cover the LAN side, which is the SDA, software-defined access, and the WAN side, which is the SD-WAN. So we will see how exactly the controller logic work. How do we decouple the management plane, control plane, and data plane, and place the management plane and control plane to the central device. And automation and programmability, as I was mentioning earlier as well, is that we will understand what are the data structures, like how do we use XML or JSON or Jinja2 or YAML to actually create the instructions that we need to send to the router. Maybe I want to configure BGP on the router, or maybe I want to shut down an interface, or I want to configure the line device with the SSH. So to send these instructions, I cannot send them into the plain English. I need to use a structure which is actually defined by the Yang data model. So Yang data models are simply basically like a language that you both need to speak. The router also need to know this, and you also need to know this so that you can communicate. And the transportation protocol to send these instructions is netconf or resconf, as we will learn as well. And we will see that we can use some individual tools to send the netconf instructions or RESTconf infrastructure. For example, we can use Postman to send the netconf or RESTconf API calls to the router. But these are individual API calls that you can create and send. But what if I want to automate these on a large level, on a big level? Then you can also basically integrate the netconf and RESTconf API calls into the Python programming language instructions so that you can send them either to multiple routers or multiple instructions to the same router and automate things using Python. So we'll see those things as well in programmability part. Also, there's a very interesting concept we will learn in programmability, which is called on-box Python. So every Cisco CSR routers or any iOS XC series routers, they have the inbuilt Linux container. So this Linux container can actually spin up the Python module, and you can actually call or send the Python instructions to the router which is hosting the Linux container. This is called on-box Python. So we'll see how exactly that is implemented as well. So that will be part of the programmability section. And of course, the lab structure, as I mentioned, that we will start with every week with the single protocol labs. Like 1 week, we'll be discussing spanning tree protocol, another week, Ether channel, yet another week, VLAN and trunking, then EIGRP, then OSPF and BGP. So these are, you can see, single protocol labs concentrating on one or two technologies only. But then, of course, after we are done with the core topics, single protocol labs, we will do multi-protocol labs as well, where we will use a bigger topology, a different topology, and we will actually configure multiple technologies at the same time. We will start with layer 2. On the top of that, we will build layer 3. We will be configuring OSPF, EIGRP, IPv6, as well as DMVPN, MPLS. All technologies will be configured on the same topology, right? So to give you an example of a multi-protocol lab, so this is an example of the multi-protocol lab. You can see that we will be having a headquarter where we are using OSPF for IPv4. and EIGRP for IPv6. And then it is connected to this data center where we'll be using OSPF for IPv4 and BGP to connect to the internet. And we also have the DVPN going to the branches. So we have this branch 3 and branch 4 where we'll be connecting the DVPN spoke site and then configure some kind of routing here. Ultimately, we need to have end-to-end reachability. We will also have DHCP server so that we can assign IP addresses to the end devices and internet connectivity as well. So this diagram will actually cover, you can see all the different technologies or important technologies at the same time. So that's why it is called a multi-protocol lab. So this is lab 1. We'll also do a software-defined networking lab as well. For example, this is the example of an SD WAN lab, where you can see in the data center, we have the vManage, which actually is the single pane of glass management of the whole SD-WAN fabric. And then we have the vBond for the orchestration, vSmart for the control plane policies. And then we have these vEdges, which are used for the actual data forwarding between the devices. So you can see that branch 1 and branch 2 are connecting using vEdges to the rest of the branch. And then how do you configure these things and how do we configure different VPN logic here? So don't worry, we are going to understand in depth exactly how this work, why do we need different elements and what are the exact steps to configure these things. And this is just to show you that this is an example of a multi-protocol lab that we are going to do as well. So talking about VMware, one thing you must have seen in my welcome email is that on instructor's note email is that I sent you a link to download the VMware workstation. So if you have already downloaded that, you will actually see something like this. Let me open this for here. So you will see that you will have a VMware player like this, and then you will also see another Dropbox link in that email, which is to download the OVA file. The OVA file is actually for our topology. So you will see that the software that we are using is the EVNG software. So the EVNG software is a free software. You can download it from evng.net. It's just an emulator, which actually emulates the real devices by using the real operating system images in the backend. But the problem is that it's just an empty shell. When you download EVNG, it has nothing inside it. It's just a Linux operating system in the backend. So you will have to log into the backend Linux and you have to somehow copy the router and switches and SD-WAN images and you have to license them. And then you have to open the GUI and create the topology. So there is a lot of work before you can start learning, right? So we wanted to get rid of all these issues for the students. So we created that OVA file that I sent you. Now that OVA is a packaged file which contains the EVNG. All the router and switching iOS images are already copied and licensed, and all the topologies are pre-built that we are going to use for different sections of layer 2 and layer 3. So when you import that OVA into the VMware, so let's say in my email, I sent you the VMware link and the OVA link. So once you download them, once you install VMware, and then you download OVA, so what you need to do is you need to go to the player file and open, or you can also, of course, you can press Ctrl+O to open, and then you will go to the one of the OVA files, right? So for example, you select the OVA file, you click on open, and then you can give it a name like 02lab or CCIE practice or whatever the name you want to give, and import it into the OVA. Once you import it, you will actually see something like this, where you will have the option to play the virtual machine, and it will show you some options here. So a couple of things I want to note mention here, that when you go to the edit virtual machine setting before you start the or switch on the OVA, when you go to the edit virtual machine setting, you will see that you have the option to change the memory or RAM. How much RAM do you want? You can actually give it more or less. So I would recommend for the first part where we are doing all the routing and switching core topics like IGPs, BGP, QoS, IPv6. I would say even 8 gig is more than enough. If you can assign 8 gig to it, that will be enough. But when we go to SD-WAN, 16 to 32 gig is recommended to have, because that requires more memory, right? Or more resources. Just make sure one more thing, the network adapter is set to NAT. What happens when you set it to NAT is that it will receive an IP address when you boot it. And let me show you that. So once you are done with this and you play the virtual machine, you will actually wait for it to boot, and after it boots, you will see something like this. It will leave you at this location where it will tell you that EVNG default root password is EU and use the HTTP, and then it will tell you some IP address. So in your case, the IP might be different. So, and then it will show you the login screen. Now, this is the login screen for the backend Linux. So you don't need to log in here, right? What you do need to do is note down the IP from here and open it into one of the browsers that you have. So you go to one of the browsers and you open that IP that you note down there, 192.168.79.137 in my case, but in your case, the IP may be different. And that will take you to the GUI of EVNG. That's where you will see all the topologies that we have. So when you go to the 0 2it.com for watching the recordings every week, you will see that you also have the access to the regular CCIE course, which is the slow pace. And one of the first videos in the first week is the EVNG setup video. You can watch that video also where I explain all these things again, how exactly to use EVNG, right? But yeah, generally here the username is admin, password is EU, and then you will actually end up at a list of topologies. Like in your case, the topologies will be few because I was just practicing few things, so I created more topologies. But for example, this base lab, this is the topology we will be using for most of the layer 3 topics. So when you click on the base lab, click on open, it actually opens this topology, which is same topology as I was showing you here into the OSPF example. You see, this is the same topology, 8 routers, but divided into different areas, and IP addressing is mentioned here. So you boot the devices, you actually start a device, and then you can start using it. Now, as I mentioned, that topologies are pre-built like this. IP addressing is already configured, and you just need to start the devices and then connect to the console, and you can start using the devices, right? So in the EVNG setup video, you will see all the details, and I will send you a PDF also, which has all the instructions step by step, how to import the OV and set it up. So as I mentioned that we will actually start the topics from next week. So you do have this whole week to complete this setup. And of course, feel free to contact me if you have any issue or if you get stuck anywhere to set it up and to start using it, right? But generally, you will see in that PDF or also in the video that you can go to start all notes, and you can click on the devices, and then it will open the putty session for you. And you can click on the device, open putty or super putty, whatever you are using, and then you can start configuring the device right from here. You can see device is now available. And as you can see, that IP addressing is already there, but that's it. You don't have any routing or anything. That will something we'll do as and when we reach there. And of course, this is for the routing part. So if you stop the devices, close the lab, you will see that there are other topologies also like MST, multiple spanning tree topology, or ether channel, or CDP. So depending on the topic of the switching, we will have different topologies, and I'll tell you which one to use for which lab. But for most of the core routing, we will use the base lab topology. So it's easier to remember the design and just concentrate on the topic in hand that we will be discussing for that part, right? So setting up EVNG and everything, yeah, I'll send you the PDF, and also you can watch the EVNG setup video as I mentioned, and you should be good to get this working once you have the information ready for you. So how exactly can this program help? So as I was mentioning earlier, that it is in-depth and advanced concept sessions to understand protocols and technology on a deeper level. That is our objective here. And you will see that some of the topics, because it is the advanced level, some days we will have multiple topics if they are smaller topics. Like for switching, we may cover VLANs and trunking and ether channel and the logic of configuring router on a stick on the same day, because these are topics we learn right from CCNA, again in CCNP, and we just need to make sure that we refresh this knowledge, right? But then there will be some topics where we are not going to do it fast at all. We'll make sure that we go in depth. Like BGP, we might as well go to 3 or 4 sessions to complete the all BGP topics, because BGP is huge, right? Similarly, for MPLS, it might take more than 1 sessions, and NVPN or SD-WAN. So we will make sure that we go faster because it's the accelerated class, but we are not going to compromise on any of the technologies knowledge or the in-depth level of information that you need, right? And the whole idea here is to build the troubleshooting mindset. We need to understand one thing, that once your fundamentals are strong, your troubleshooting naturally becomes strong. That's why we concentrate so much on understanding things on a deeper level, and implementing them regularly, consistently. So we have more comfort level with the technology, and that actually translates into better troubleshooting skills as well. So foundational strength with single protocol labs, and then of course mini section wise cluster labs also I'll provide you every now and then. For example, once we are done with switching part, I'll give you a 1 week break where you can do the multi protocol lab. I'll send you, which covers only the switching topics. So it's like a mini multi protocol lab. Once we are done with the routing multi protocol section, routing single protocol section, uh, EIGRP, OSPF, BGP, and then I'll again give you a 1 week break to send you a small mini multi-protocol lab for the routing part. So we will also not only we are going to cover the topics week by week, but we will come back to revise everything again and again once the major section is finished. And I'll send you the mini multi-protocol labs for those. I'm calling them mini because they cover more than one protocol, but not all of them, like only switching protocols or only routing protocols like that. So we will make sure that you gain the required pace for the exam with the exam-like multi-protocol labs. So once we reach to the multi-protocol labs, the real multi-protocol labs, exam-like multi-protocol labs, you will see that the objective is not to understand the technology, because you already understand the technology now, already understand the logic now because of the single protocol labs. But the idea and the objective is to make sure that you have the comfort level with every technology. You do it again and again, not to cram or to remember anything, but just to get the habit of doing things faster, to gain that pace that you need for the exam. That's why you see, first the accuracy using single protocol labs, understanding the technologies in depth, and then comes the speed, which will be by doing multi-protocol labs again and again, or doing more practice, right? Also, once this program is done, we can actually have individual one-to-one session, and then we can discuss that how exactly you can decide to book your CCI exam. What should be your preparation plan after the course is done? How many days or weeks or months you should give more before taking the exam, so that you have your personalized plan and my support to make sure that you get your CCI number, right? So that's it for today. I just wanted to discuss the course structure and the CCI lab structure, and also how exactly this course is going to help you in that journey. So again, this week you guys should just import the OVA into the VMware, make sure that topology is working fine. You can boot the devices, and if you have any issue into that, feel free to contact me and we on my email, and we can discuss the way that we can fix that issue, right? So that from next week when we start the actual training, we have everything ready before that. So, Saeed, also one thing I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
We have another student here, Bobby, who was asking that if it is possible to move the class to one of the free slot that we have on the Wednesday evening. So right now, as you can see, the class is on Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern
Mm-hmm.
time. So we also have another slot on the Wednesday night, 9 p.m. So he was preferring that slot if possible to move this class there. So I was telling him also that let's discuss with Saeed also, and if everyone is agree, then we can do that. So what do you think about that? Are you also free on Wednesday nights, or do you prefer this one?
Yeah, actually, that's fine for me as well. So, as you know,
Okay.
it's Ramadan right now. I'll be
Yes, yes.
late for a few weeks. So once Ramadan
Okay.
finished, then I will join it by 9 o'clock, or even if I cannot join it, so I can watch the videos. But I'm trying my best to join. Yeah, the Wednesday should work fine for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So happy Ramadan to you and your family.
Thank you.
And yeah, so Bobby, I think we can actually move this class, as Syed also agrees, to the Wednesday night, as you mentioned. So I'll send you guys more detail with I think the invite link will be same. I'll just change the time into the meeting. So you can join, you can use the same invite link I sent you to join on Wednesday, but I'll just send you a new Google invite so that you have the updated time information.
Okay.
Okay, great. Where can we watch the videos at again? How do we access the video?
Okay, yeah. So for videos, let me send you into the chat. We have this portal where you can go to 02it.com. And on this portal, you will have to log in with your own credential, which sorry, let me send it to everyone. I send it only to you. So the website is 02it.com. And Christian, I will send you your personalized credentials, your username and password to log into this site. And then there you will see that there is a catalog of all the courses that you have enrolled into. And then you will be able to join or watch the recordings there. So these recordings will be available to you for lifetime access. And as I mentioned earlier, that the recording from today's class, it will be uploaded, I think, on YouTube also. It's the introduction session. But yeah, from next week onward, you will see the recording will be from one of the previous classes, but it is the same structure. So the content and the labs will be same, but we don't want to keep multiple copies because the content is same. So you might not see it from our class. It will be one of the earlier classes that we had, but you will be able to log in there. So in case if you don't have the credentials, you can contact Christian, and he will actually provide you the personalized credentials to log into this website and gain access. And in the same email, he will also give you the URL again. So you don't need to worry about it. You will get the access there as well. So did you guys already receive the credentials?
Actually, while I purchased the course, it asked me to create a username and password. So I've created my own username and password. So I do have access. I actually saw the introduction there as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
Got
that
it.
might be it.
Okay. Yeah. So in case in the same way, like when you access 02it.com, if you can already access everything with your personalized credentials you created, then that's awesome. In case if there is any confusion, you can also contact Christian and he will help you with the logistics part of it, how to connect to it. No worries.
Okay. So I want to ask you something else. I do have like a EVNG environment with me, so I'm very familiar with that. I do practice a lot of stuff there. So like maybe I can only import the labs or maybe the OVA file to my workstation. That should be fine, right?
Yes, yes. So, see, there are two things. One thing is that if you just import the labs, the issue might be of the compatibility of the iOS images that we are using versus what you might already have imported. And especially when it comes to SD-WAN, the licensing becomes a big headache. So we wanted to make sure that you guys don't have to worry about licensing if they are properly licensed for many years and you can directly start practicing. So if you can just import the OVA into your existing VMware setup, that will be better because that way you will get all the setup and iOS images and licenses from what we have and topologies and everything, so that you can start practicing right away. But for the routing part and switching part, the initial part that we are going to do, even if you want to use your EVNG, I can send you the lab files, and I'll also let you know that which iOS images we are using. So if you can try, you can actually change it accordingly as well. But for SD-WAN, I would recommend to just directly import the OVA. But SD-WAN will come later anyway. So right now should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem. All right, guys. So in case if you have any issue during the week about anything else, also logistic wise, your your EVNG setup or getting access to the recordings, feel free to contact me or Christian. And from next week, we'll start the regular classes, the 2 hour sessions with the switching part as the first part that we'll cover. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you next week.
All right.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Have a good day and good weekend. Bye bye, guys.
You,
Bye.
you too. Bye.